The Italian American word of the week. It's Mamadelle. Mamadelle. A Mamadelle is a little girl who acts like an old lady. I have been called a Mamadelle first from my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, my whole childhood. So, a little girl that acts like an old lady. I have to be honest, I was always, like people go, oh, you're an old soul, or I was always a little weird. Coffee Talk. Good morning, everybody, and welcome to Coffee Talk. Hope you're having a great day. I am drinking my coffee. I wanted to do something we love doing here on Coffee Talk, which is give you the Italian American word of the week. It's Mamadelle. Mamadelle. A Mamadelle is a little girl who acts like an old lady. I have been called a Mamadelle first from my grandmother, my maternal grandmother, my whole childhood. So, a little girl that acts like an old lady. I have to be honest, I was always, like people go, oh, you're an old soul, or I was always a little weird. I don't know if it's an old soul. Listen, if you're listening to this podcast, it's most likely because I brought you back to old school sayings and I'm super nostalgic. So yes, in a sense, even at 45, I'm a little bit like a Mamadelle. Because I'm not an old lady, but maybe I do act like one. But from a little girl, and I don't know if it's because I was the only child, which is very possible. My dad, I did have a sister. Unfortunately, she was through another woman, and that woman would not allow me to see my sister, which is something I can talk about. Listen, life is hard. Situations are complicated. Blended families have existed forever. Hidden secret families also have too. My dad, not unfortunately, because my sister came from it, my dad was involved with a woman. He did have a child before I was born. That woman would not let my dad see his daughter, would not let me, my mom tried in the beginning, I know that, to get us to be together. Listen, my mom left my dad when I was 1. It's not like she was saying, hey, I wanted the prize. She was just being like, hey, we're both in this situation. We both have daughters. They don't have siblings. Let's connect. Unfortunately, she wouldn't do that. So I got my sister later in life when we were adults and able to make decisions for ourselves about what our relationship would look like. And so here I am, this little girl, single mom, alcoholic dad, and I was around adults. My mother couldn't afford daycare, so I lived with my great-grandparent. I would go to my great-grandmother's house. I was always around older people, and not really any other kids. I had no siblings. I had one cousin my age on my dad's side, one cousin my age on my mom's side. He lived in Jersey. I only got to see my cousin on my dad's side when I was with my dad, because my parents weren't together. So I think a big reason why I acted so much like an old lady is because I was around a lot of old ladies. But I think there's a lot of circumstances in life that make kids who they are. I know that my mom was not strict with me when it came to school or things like that. Neither was my father because he didn't even finish school. But I put this immense amount of pressure on myself from a young age to do well and get good grades, and I took myself way too seriously. My mom said one day I was in 3rd grade and I came home and she wanted to do something fun with me, and I was like, Ma, I can't. I have to do my homework and watch General Hospital. I was in the 3rd grade. Why was I not watching cartoons like every other kid? Why was I focused on my work, and why was I watching a soap opera? But the word is so nostalgic to me, and I think too to now where I'm at this real crossroad, right? It's middle age, it's perimenopause, it's all these fun things. And there are times when I think having that kind of childhood really made me who I am today. And I look back on those days, whether they were, not the picket white fence childhood that everybody else had. They really opened my eyes into connecting with people about so many things, from the Italian words to my sense of humor to, old school sayings just in general. I did something the other day on Johnny Pump and, like these terms that we use.
There it is again.
And the votes were not in your favor, Kita.
What was the vote?
Everybody's like, it's always been Johnny Pump.
Okay, then your audience is like retirement. You should be hitting up retirement homes.
Well, this makes me nervous. Let me explain to you. Some people said to me, like, I'm getting the "my mom loves you," and my mom, these people are older than me saying their mom loves me. And I'm like, well, your mom better be spreading the word to younger generations about me, or I'm going to have no fan base in 10 years.
Should do a tour, the retirement home tour.
I need to tap into how I'm going to get a younger audience, is what I realized. I've been an old lady since I'm 9 years old.
You can start by not saying Johnny Pump.
I've been an old lady since I'm 9 years old. This is who I am. I went to bed at 8 o'clock last night, woke up at 6 this morning. I needed that 10 hours, and now I am going to have a huge, big, productive day. I already filmed one podcast. I probably said that in the first podcast. I looked like I started because I went back to Sicily and we were looking at old pictures and trying to see who was who before I went there. I just look at all of these pictures and even videos of me, and I am a Mamadelle. Like, I took myself so seriously at 4 years old. Like, I was, I don't know what it was about me. I was always trying to be an adult. And maybe it's because I was always around adults. And now I'm 45 and I don't want to be an adult. I'd love to go back and have a normal childhood. No, I would like to not take myself so seriously now. And I think that's the problem that I face, is that it's really cute. When like, you ever see like a kid, they curse and we go, oh my God, and because they're cursing and it's like they're not supposed to do it. It was cute to people that I was like this little neurotic, toddler who was like, super efficient and acting like she was 30. But in hindsight, I'm still stuck in that taking myself too seriously. And listen, I picked a profession that is rooted in rejection. And that is so hard to feel good about yourself in. And I'm constantly striving to be better and do better and write more and sell more and find ways to reach my audience. And it's like, I realize I'm not even living life enough to joke about it. So I am going to start taking a little bit more time for myself. Going into next year, I realize, and I'm honored, that I have a tour in the making for 2026. This was my first go at it at 2025. I learned a lot of lessons, too many lessons. I want to stop learning. But the phone calls are still coming in. The demand for me in these cities is still high enough to bring me back. I feel very obligated to all of you listening and all of you buying tickets to come see me, to give you a great new show.
Let me interject here.
Okay.
I want you to change the language. What you said was, the tickets are high enough to have me back. What you should be saying is, I did so well, they want me back.
Yes, you're right. You're correct. I stand corrected.
And let's do a vote, folks. Should Tara work on the way she talks about herself? Yes.
Should we all,
or no?
Should we all work on the way we talk about ourselves?
Also, yeah, I don't feel like in my eyes, you're very humble and you don't take yourself too seriously. That's one of the things I love about you.
Well, behind closed doors, I stress myself out.
Okay, well, yeah. Okay, that's fair.
Yeah. Behind closed doors, I stress myself out. But yes, the reception of me on this first tour was humbling. Maybe that's why I talk about it that way. The responses I got, not just from the audience, but from the club owners and the bookers, about not just me, but how respectful my audience was, how well, my audience probably took care of the wait staff really well too, because they were very generous, and how everybody conducted themselves, and how just the feeling in the rooms, whether they were 60 people in San Diego or 400 people in Rutherford, New Jersey, at the end of the day, from start to finish, from my openers to myself to the, producers to the audience, it was just a very positive experience. And I want to continue that. I think that's all part of my brand. I think the audience that follows me being so great is part of my brand. The openers that did so well. I truly am so grateful. Akita and I were talking before the podcast, and I said, I get up on that stage alone, but I didn't get up on that stage by myself. It takes a village to raise a comic. And I'm saying I am so grateful. The little old lady in me is so grateful that all of this work and all of this, the thought I put into making this tour what it was received the way it was. And now I feel like that only makes me feel more responsible to all of you listening to the podcast, all of you coming out to shows, spending your money, getting babysitters, traveling. Some of you traveled or stayed overnight to see me. It's like the obligation, the weight I feel on my shoulders to make sure you have an amazing time every time you do that is still very prevalent with me. I even started, and I'm doing it in Florida and California, these next trips. I'm working with Sal and Dom's Bakery in the Bronx, New York, to bring Italian cookies from the Bronx to all of my shows. Yes, even 3,000 miles away at the Hollywood Improv, at my meet and greet. You are going to have Italian cookies from me. I'm bringing them to Sanford, Florida, to Naples, to Stamford, Connecticut, and to Fort Lauderdale, and to Atlantic City. Tampa is on the map. In February, I'll have the cookies there. Rochester for Valentine's Day. Go out for a nice dinner. Don't have dessert, because in Rochester at Comedy at the Carlson, you're going to have cookies from me, from the bakery. I am trying to incorporate and think about every part of this tour and every part of the show, right? Like, I realized too late, that some of you guys, especially when the shows are bigger, obviously in Rockland, in Jersey, in Long Island, Florida, some of you guys waited 30 to 45 minutes on a meet and greet line. You came to a show, you got there early, you stayed for the hour and 40 minutes of the show, then you waited online for me just to meet me, take a picture, to tell me your story. That's why I was like, I gotta have something at the end of that table with me, more than me. That's why I got the cookies. I'm just really learning so much about what kind of entertainer I want to be. More importantly, what kind of person I want to continue to be and evolve into while I'm doing all of this, which is to say the podcast and the clips and the stand-up and the writing and the special that I'm working on and the book I'm working on and the movie and the TV pilot. I am constantly thinking, how can I speak this message of who I am and where I come from and why you guys relate to it so much? So just know how much I appreciate you tuning into the podcast and listening to this podcast, because it really helps me get all my thoughts out. It gets me to hear what you guys really want from me. The old lady in the little girl body is asking you, please, if you like the podcast, if Mamadelle is a word you remember, if it's a phrase you use, let me know. Please go online, subscribe to the podcast. If you're not subscribed, please share it with somebody you love. Write a review. Come see me at a show. Guys, I meant what I said. I am only trying to elevate this podcast for all of you, as well as the shows and everything else. So please let me hear from you. I love you guys. Thank you so much. All the shows and the mugs for the podcast are on tarajokes.com.
Coffee Talk.